This episode has been brought to you by JustNForm.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to JustNForm.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
So, for the longest time, all the pro-Russiagate heads have been telling us that unquestionably, there is no way that Julian Assange is not connected to the Russiagate conspiracy. And I call it that in the way that a lot of these pundits have used it to insult anybody who rears against the establishment narrative. They have really been perpetuating the true idea of what they consider a conspiracy theory. Very similar to how Rachel Maddow said, well, we know why Donald Trump is pursuing the North Korea deal, and it's because they share a 2-mile border with Russia. Like North Korea shares it. Like that's why. It's for Putin. That's what she said. That is a conspiracy theory, and by definition of what they choose to describe as a conspiracy theory anyway. But trying to connect WikiLeaks is an even weaker example of a conspiracy theory. Now, let's go ahead and review the facts, shall we? WikiLeaks was championed by the New York Times, by NBC, by Washington Post, by many of the liberal pundits, left-wing pundits, if you will, and nobody said anything about this. Nobody, actually, I lied. The Obama administration, believe it or not, did try to prosecute them. Believe it or not, they did. But the problem was, which makes sense, they would be seriously infringing on free speech, and there would be no way to stop the prosecution of anyone or anybody who published the documents that WikiLeaks did in fact leak. Also, they just had no proof that it was a hack, and you can't just punish people. You can't just punish people for leaking, for printing documents handed over to them, because that is called journalism. That is indeed freedom of the press. And when WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, was quote-unquote on the side of the Democrats, they had absolutely no problem with him, considering they were exposing war crimes of the Bush administration. Now, on the other side of that fence, we have approached 2015, 2016, and all of a sudden, Julian Assange is America's most wanted. All of a sudden, the Democrats despise him. Isn't that convenient? Once he gets exposed, and they always say, well, WikiLeaks only exposed one side. They say WikiLeaks hacked, and they did not hack anything. It was a leak. And one of the colleagues of Julian Assange who works for WikiLeaks, who used to be an ambassador in Great Britain, even went into detail and explained how they got one of the leaks from intel officer in Washington, D.C. Went in detail, explained it to him. Now, if Julian Assange and WikiLeaks were guilty of colluding with Russia on behalf of Donald Trump, which, by the way, would mean the goalposts went from right here, from oh my God, John Podesta's emails were hacked by some guy named Guccifer 2.0, to WikiLeaks is now colluding with Vladimir Putin in order to expose Assange. If the latter were true, then we would have seen it turn up in these indictments, don't you think? Don't you think? Think about it. These recent indictments tried to implicate Guccifer 2, the DC leaks they never took off or gained traction. And they went into detail about how Guccifer 2.0 hacked or leaked DNC documents. But weirdly enough, they didn't mention Julian Assange. They didn't mention WikiLeaks. They didn't mention how one of those Russian intel officers from the Kremlin coordinated with Julian Assange. They didn't mention why they want Julian Assange extradited. They didn't mention why you should be upset with WikiLeaks. They didn't mention exactly how WikiLeaks got any of the documents. Do you know why? Even though they were super confident about this. 2 years ago. Remember? They were super confident about this. They knew for a fact that WikiLeaks was working with the Kremlin. They didn't include him in this indictment because he isn't guilty of anything. They didn't include him in this indictment because that would be putting it officially on the books. And they don't want to charge Julian Assange because he didn't do anything wrong. They can't charge him with anything, to be totally honest with you. They're not going to charge WikiLeaks with anything. They want him extradited so they can torture him and then kill him. I want to be perfectly clear about that. I don't want you to have any misunderstanding about what they intend to do if they get their hands on him, which makes them kicking him out of the embassy a big deal. Kim.com said that he can give them whatever they want on WikiLeaks. Of course, this is something I'm sure he had discussed with Julian Assange's people because he's going to exonerate Julian Assange with the information that he has and implicate other people involved. And that's what they don't want. But they did not indict Julian Assange in the very indictments that implicated all of the quote-unquote leakers/hackers in the 2016-2015 primaries and then the general election. So if he is guilty, if he is associated with Russia, then why not indict him officially? Now, there are some claims, and it's very reasonable to think that he may be part of a sealed indictment. But why? Why warn the Russians? Why warn the Russians so they don't ever come back? Because they're not going to come back. Why would they come back? To sit in a banana republic, kangaroo court situation? I wouldn't. You know how our government gets down. It wouldn't be a fair trial at all. Those indictments should have never went through. The case should be dismissed on face. And it probably will be if they ever decide to take it to court. But if they openly indicted those particular Russians, they openly indicted the 13 Russians before, why seal the indictment of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks if you can use that indictment to demonize them? Why? Because they have no way to detail or outline exactly what the connection is between Julian Assange and Russia. Because I could see if this was Snowden, for example. Like, Snowden got asylum by Russia, though. That's the weird part about this entire thing. Putin has never offered Julian Assange asylum. Russia has never offered Julian Assange asylum. You want to know why? Because he's leaked documents about them as well. He's leaked documents about their oligarch as well. He's leaked documents about their Kremlin as well. Because Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have always been indiscriminate about the people they leak things about. That's just kind of what they do. People always say, well, why don't you leak? Why didn't he leak things before? Well, about Trump, I mean. And the truth of the matter is, Trump was a private citizen before. Trump wasn't involved in government before. Therefore, he would not have anything that would be leakable in the eyes of WikiLeaks. If that makes sense. If you notice, what he does, what Julian Assange leaks, they're all about government officials, public servants that are using their offices to elevate themselves. I'm sure if they would have given Assange until 2020, that he would have leaked information about Donald Trump. But they never gave him the opportunity to. Things that people don't consider. So if WikiLeaks was really connected to Russia, he would have been thrown in that indictment along with Gucci 2.0 and along with the along with the DC leaks. Think about it. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this segment of Mika Says Sukasa. You can join us on JustNForm and make sure that you subscribe to Stop the Russian Menace. Yeah, that's it. If you smash that subscribe button, then USA. Just hit subscribe, people. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.